everyone, my name is Sarah, and today we're going to learn about the history of jigsaw puzzles. Very interesting. So, how many of you guys like to do puzzles when you were growing up? Actually, I used to do a lot of puzzles when I was a kid. I don't really like them. I just, I don't know, for some reason, for me, it's not very interesting, but I know a lot of people who really like doing puzzles, and they make these like huge 1,000, sometimes even 2,000 piece puzzles. It's kind of a hobby for these people, which is kind of interesting. So today we're going to learn about how people came up with the idea of jigsaw puzzles and how they changed over time. Let's start. A jigsaw puzzle is a set of irregularly cut shapes that can interlock with one another to form one big image. Jigsaw puzzles are popular throughout the world, but where did they come from? Very interesting. So, I feel like it goes without saying, but of course, in a jigsaw puzzle, the pieces all have to be irregularly cut. So, for instance, if we look at this picture right here, we see all these little puzzle pieces, and they fit perfectly, they interlock perfectly with each other, right? But the thing is, even though they kind of look a little bit similar to each other, they're not exactly the same, so they're irregular. And because of this, that makes it so that each piece only fits in one place in the puzzle. So you can't accidentally put it in the wrong place, and then, because if all the pieces were exactly the same, you wouldn't know where to put them, and then it wouldn't be a puzzle, it would be a mosaic, which is a completely different art form. But yeah. And jigsaw puzzles are popular throughout the world, but where do they come from? Let's take a look at the next paragraph. John Spilsbury, our cartographer from London, is known as the inventor of jigsaw puzzles, making the first one around 1760. Wow. Jigsaw puzzles are literally older than my country. I did not know that. That's pretty interesting. While today's jigsaw puzzles are typically made with cardboard, earlier puzzles were made from hard wood. Very interesting. Okay, so this word right here, cartographer. Cartographer. What could that possibly mean? Any guesses? You can put it down there. Okay, so a cartographer is somebody who draws maps for a living. So nowadays we have, Naver Maps and Google Maps and all these, digital applications and satellites and things, so we can know exactly where things are and we can make a very precise map. But in the past, people had no way of doing this. So people would have to draw maps just one little tiny piece at a time. It took forever. It was very expensive, and that's why we needed professional cartographers, or people who make maps for a living. And so John Spilsbury, he's the inventor. He's the first person to come up with the idea of and make a jigsaw puzzle. And he made the first one in 1760. So that's 16 years before the signing of the US Declaration of Independence. Very interesting. And so most of the puzzles that you and I have probably seen and used throughout our lives are made out of cardboard, right? But in the past, of course, they didn't have cardboard. That's not something that people made back then. So puzzles were instead made from hard wood. Wow, I think those would have been really heavy and probably expensive. Spilsbury used a marquetry saw to create them. Despite its name, jigsaws were never used to create jigsaw puzzles. The tool of choice for making these puzzles was the fret saw. Historians believe the name is simply a misnomer. Okay, so there was like 3 different types of saws. A saw is like a piece of metal with little teeth on the end of it, and you go like this, and you use it to cut wood. So just so you know, in my personal opinion, you probably don't need to know the difference between a jigsaw, a marquetry saw, and a fret saw. These are not things that come up in ordinary life. I don't think I knew either of these words before I was writing this presentation. But basically, you should just know that there are different types of saws, and the puzzles themselves are named after the jigsaw, which I believe it's like a rectangular saw that you can kind of move like this with your arm. And yeah, so scientists and historians think that this name is simply a misnomer. So when something is a misnomer, it means that the name gets something wrong about the object that it's supposedly describing. So for example, a hotel might be called the Grand Hotel, but then you go inside and you find out actually it's not very nice at all. And so you could say that the name of the hotel is a misnomer because The hotel is not really that grand. During the 18th century, most jigsaw puzzles were educational tools, primarily for geography. King George III and Queen Charlotte's children were taught geography with jigsaw puzzle maps. Very interesting. So we mentioned earlier that the inventor of the jigsaw puzzle was from England, right? And during the 18th century, so that's the 1700s, jigsaw puzzles were primarily used as educational tools. So things to teach things to people. And they were especially used for geography, or 지리. So, and this totally makes sense because the inventor of the jigsaw puzzle was a cartographer, or someone who makes maps, right? And so King George III and Queen Charlotte's children were all taught geography, or the map of the world, using a jigsaw puzzle map. This sounds kind of fun. I kind of want to try this. Cardboard jigsaw puzzles rose in popularity during the Great Depression. They were cheap and time-consuming, making them a perfect form of entertainment during difficult times. Very cool. So the Great Depression, in Korean that would be the 대공황. So that was a period in the 1930s in the United States and also in much of the world where the economy was really, really bad, and a lot of people were out of work, they were hungry, and a lot of people didn't have very much money to go around. And so what do you do for fun during, really, really difficult economic times? A lot of people play with cardboard jigsaw puzzles because they were cheap, so they were inexpensive, and they were time-consuming. So it would take you hours and hours, sometimes even days or weeks, to complete one jigsaw puzzle. So for a little bit of money, you can have a lot of entertainment during difficult times. Very interesting. Well, today we discussed the history of jigsaw puzzles. I hope that all of you found this lesson to be enjoyable. So, yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure to let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys all again next week. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye!